Thomas and Friends is a 40-year-old TV show, and of course a show that old would eventually accumulate millions of fans. And within those people, those fans tend to collect their own favorite episodes. And seeing that I am indeed one of those fans, I have my own personal favorite episodes. The episodes in which I have that are my favorite aren't necessarily the best episodes in each season, but I want to pick out one episode from each season, 1 through 12 of the model series, and pretty much tell you why I think they're my favorite out of the seasons. There are, of course, a lot of runner-ups for some of these seasons, so I do want to give them a little mention, but without further ado, I want to tell you guys which 12 episodes are my favorite of the model series. For season 1, it was a tough pick because a lot of the episodes hold the same vibe, but I easily think that Thomas in Trouble has to be my favorite episode of season 1. Season 1 is best regarded for its amazing continuity and to be able to pretty much watch one episode without having to watch the one that came before it. But the thing is, these episodes would blatantly tell you what happened in the previous episode in case you didn't watch it.
Why did I go so fast that I made a hole in one of my coaches that had to be mended with, of all things, a passenger's bootlace? He could well remember that dreadful accident on his first day. James tried to get back by talking about Henry, who got shut up in a tunnel, and Gordon, who got stuck on a hill.
Thomas in Trouble then takes that trope and almost completely gets rid of it. The episode starts out as its own self-contained story. Thomas is having a happy time on his branch line, and he heads to near the far end of the branch line and then gets up in trouble. Now, if you knew nothing about what happens after this, or nothing about the show moving forward, you have no idea where this story is gonna go. That's when 2/3 of the episode's runtime we get a reference back to the previous episode.
Everyone will laugh, sir, said Thomas. They'll say I look like a tram. Well done, Thomas. We need a tram engine.
To where a character meets this tram engine that we, again, have never met before, and that episode was self-contained. I feel like the callbacks to continuity or to previous episodes were a lot more subtle, and it made this episode stick out to me in a lot of those ways. Now, Season 2 has the same issue I had with Season 1, is where a lot of the episodes are pretty good, and this is one of these seasons that had a lot of runner-ups. Percy Takes the Plunge is obviously an iconic episode, but it wasn't really the best. A Close Shave for Duck is also a really iconic episode, but it wasn't necessarily my favorite. My favorite episode from Season 2 is actually Old Iron. Old Iron was this episode that I remember as a kid as being the most epic episode of the show so far. James thinks some kids are playing a practical joke on him and running him down the main line, but unbeknownst to him, there's nobody in his cab. Edward, the character that James just got done putting down behind his back, then comes into the rescue and saves James's ass. The whole idea of a runaway train that isn't a train, it's just the engine that's running away, always struck me as something that was interesting, because usually it would be a train being pushed by trucks or an engine running away because his conductor forgot to turn the brakes on or whatever the Just the sight of one engine chasing after another on the main line was something that always stuck to me as a kid, and clearly it stuck with millions of others, because this episode is truly one of the greatest. In Season 3, I also did have 2 runner-ups, one of them being Mavis, for the fact that I love the lesson that Mavis learns in this episode, plus the fact how she thought she knew better, and almost in a twist, like again, if you're a child watching this, you wouldn't have known that Mavis would stall out. It was pretty good.
I can manage, thank you, she replied. I'm not an old like you.
Another runner-up was Post Train, simply because of the nighttime shots and the music. Oh my god, it was just perfect. This episode was pure eye and ear candy, I guess. But one of my favorites, that'll beat those two any day, had to have been The Trouble with Mud. The story itself from The Trouble with Mud, it wasn't really the thing that drove me to put this on my top 12 list here, but it's mainly the fact that Before this episode, Gordon was shown off as this character that was very pompous and, proud to be who he was.
Gordon, the biggest and proudest engine of all.
He's more concerned on his personal image rather than how he looks externally.
I haven't time to dawdle over my appearance like fussy tank engines do.
Before this, you'd assume that if Gordon was a dirty engine, he would be first in line to the washdown and ashamed to be seen, but no, he gets muddy and he doesn't care.
Good riddance, huffed Gordon. I'm far too busy to waste time with water.
To me, that's just like a nice little nugget on Gordon's character, and it does show up every now and then. It's something that I really thought was, a nice additive to his character. Coming in for Season 4, again, Season 4 has a lot of very good episodes, but a lot of those episodes have to do with each other. Thomas and the Special Letter is easily my favorite episode in Season 4. This episode really encapsulates a lot of the things that I like about this show. It has great model work, great music, great characters. It has nice calming shots in the end. It has a Thomas learn something part of its story. It has an amazing crash scene, albeit only 8 seconds long, but it's still pretty good. And it's got that amazing continuity that I mentioned before. Thomas and the Special Letter is my favorite episode in Season 4 because it makes me feel like these engines are a family. Oh geez, Season 5. Season 5 has a lot of bangers, I'm gonna admit it. Season 5 has a lot of episodes that are really good, but there's too many Season 5 episodes that I'm not too big a fan of. One episode that came really close to being on here was Horrid Laurie. Simply because of the iconic visuals and these racist trucks.
What's that steaming lump of scrap iron doing here? Be off with you, stupid.
But my favorite episode had to have been Busy Going Backwards. This episode takes the character of a brake van being towed, giving him a spotlight, because even though he's just a brake van, he's still a character, and characters, any good characters at least, will have wants and needs, and his need is to finally take charge for once.
I have forward-thinking views. I could be a leader, if you know what I mean.
He then gets his wish in by far the most reality-shaking, eye-opening experience ever, but he gets his wish. He then learns to be satisfied with what he has, and then the story ends. I really like this episode because of the lesson he learns and the visual, behind-the-scenes stuff going on here. Not to mention this guy.
Let's teach him a lesson.
Oh, Lord. See, that's crazy. Toad just wanted to have a little shakeup in his life, and the truck was like, oh yeah, let's beat his ass! Season 6 was definitely one of those mediocre seasons that a lot of people don't really want to remember, but I kind of like it for that. Season 6 always had that vibe that they were trying to pretty much sweep together all the scraps they could from a failure of a movie last year, and they made something work. I really like it. The runner-up episode was, funny enough, Middle Engine. I don't understand why people really hate this episode. I can see why it's not anyone's favorite, but I don't understand the hate it gets. Middle Engine is such an enjoyable episode, and the fact that at the end James uses his steam to hide himself also goes without saying that I love when engines do things that people can't, because there's usually like a person equivalent to some things that engines do, but like what's the human equivalent of covering yourself with steam? Let me know that in the comments. I have no idea. But my favorite episode is easily the Fogman. The Fogman has this idea that the engines hear that Cyril is losing his job, and to the engines, someone losing their job is them getting scrapped. I really hope and pray the engines don't think Sir Topmat's just gonna bring Cyril round back and just, And in replacing Cyril, they put a machine, this loud-ass machine, in his place, and of course the noise from the machine then in turn causes an avalanche. The noise machine doesn't f***ing work anymore because an avalanche crushed it. Thomas crashes. Also, this crash looks really cool. It's not impressive or anything, but it looks really cool. It's not a really special episode. It just has a nice message. So yeah, to me it's the best episode of Season 6. Season 7 was that season that was introduced to me as a part of the hit era, and it wasn't until my adult years that I realized it was a part of the classic series, which is something it still kind of blows my mind to this day, but, you know, classic series as it be. My favorite episode in the entirety of Season 7 has to be James and the Queen of Sodor. Mainly because, again, this episode uses James as a main character. Of course, James as a character, you know, he's cocky. He wants to do the best, most pristine jobs. And after boasting to the other engines about how important or whatever the fuck he says, Gordon then uses James's hubris against him. And after hearing that the Queen of Sodor is a nasty old barge, Gordon uses his wits and pawns the job off to James. James then gets to the docks and realizes that the Queen of Sodor is actually this nasty, moldy ship, and instead of giving up and being upset that this is the job he's been granted, he sucks it up, pushes it away, and promises to keep himself clean. And then by the end of the episode, he completes the job while keeping himself clean. It's quite surprising that he's able to accomplish such a thing, but good thing he, well, never mind. Either or. James and the Queen of Sodor is a pretty good episode, and it's my favorite from Season 7. Okay, we're hitting that territory where I love the hit era, and I love a lot of episodes from these seasons. Season 8 is clearly no exception. Thomas Saves the Day and Thomas to the Rescue are easily some of my favorite episodes from this season. But my favorite episode from Season 8 is easily Edward the Great. Edward the Great is a retelling of the classic fable Tortoise and the Hare, which, if I'm being honest, I'm surprised it took this long for them to do this. A lot of people think that the moral of the story is slow and steady wins the race. I personally don't think so. The moral of the story has almost always been, to me, don't be cocky. And of course, don't be cocky, it seems like they would use a character like James for this episode, but they use a character from last season, Spencer. Spencer is objectively faster than everyone else on Sodor, and of course pairing him with one of the slowest engines on Sodor is such a genius move. The story itself plays out exactly as the Tortoise and the Hare, meaning, Edward struggles while Spencer is taking the lead, bragging about it. Spencer then falls asleep thinking he has so much time before he inevitably wins the race, but Edward takes the lead and ends up winning. But I really like this episode because of how Edward is portrayed, as in he has almost this I don't care type of look on his face. And even after he's, traveling with the heavy furniture up and down hills, he doesn't look like he's trying to win the race, but he looks like he's trying to get the job done. Not to mention, the voice Michael Brandon gives him isn't that ugly, stupid, nasally voice, but more of an old, calm, dry voice that I really love.
We'll do my best, he puffed.
Good lord, I love that line delivery. I can't explain why, but that line delivery is, chef's kiss. And when Edward wins the race, it seems as if he's genuinely surprised he won the race, and he's proud of himself. He was trying his best to get the job done, not necessarily to beat Spencer, and he ended up winning in the end, and you can hear the actual surprised tone in his voice.
Hooray! I've won! He cheered loudly.
Edward the Great is by far the best episode of Season 8, hands down. In Season 9, this season actually did have a lot of runner-ups too. That being Respect for Gordon for easily being one of the best Gordon episodes in the hit era. Thomas and the Birthday Picnic because this feels like a Thomas and Sir Topham Hatt story, and I really like that. Bold and Brave is also a really good episode in my opinion. Oh my god, I could talk about flower power all day. Emily Knows Best is it's like genuinely funny episode. Thomas's New Trucks, oof, that one's a pretty good one too. Saving Edward, dude, a lot of people hate this one, but I don't get it. Saving Edward it's kind of gas. I really like that one. Keeping Up with James is also it's just a banger, dude. Season 9 was packed with fucking bangers. But my overall pick has to be Thomas and the Statue. Thomas and the Statue is easily my favorite episode of the entire season, mainly because it has Thomas acting like a dickhead throughout the entire episode, thinking that he's gonna be getting a statue for what? He didn't do anything. He goes throughout this entire episode thinking he's gonna get his very own statue, to the point where all the other engines get really irritated with him. And of course, you know, him feeling bad about being a dickhead the entire time, he apologizes in his own way that the engines find shocking, but they don't really accept. They appreciate what Thomas has done, but at the end, when it's revealed that it's not Thomas's statue, but the entire Steam team plus a top of Matt, I like that ending. It's really clever. And I also like this shot of Thomas. He just looks really funny right here. I'm glad that the statue wasn't of Thomas, and clearly he was too, because it was a much better statue that all, 9 of them? 8 of them? Whatever the hell. 8 of them were included in. It's a really good episode in season 9. It's a really good one. Season 10 of Thomas and Friends by far has to be the worst season of the entire hit era, and this is coming from the same era that houses the season that is season 12. So finding an episode that was by far my favorite in this season was not a hard thing to do. A lot of these episodes are really bad, if not really mediocre. But of course, being the hit era, there were some episodes that I did enjoy, and James the Second Best was definitely one of them. Thomas and the Colors also being a really good one, personally. The Green Controller, that was a pretty fun episode. Big Strong Henry is a good one. It's Good to Be Gordon. Oh, don't forget that one. That one's also kind of gas. But my favorite episode has to be Thomas and the Treasure. Yeah, go ahead, boo me now. Yes, I know that there are a ton of more episodes that are better than this one, but Thomas and the Treasure is really good, and here's why. As a kid, when I watched this episode, the clues to find the treasure, I don't know if it was because I was a really stupid 7-year-old, but when Salty was giving off the clues, they went over my head completely as a kid because I could not figure them out. And so when I was watching the episode and Thomas was figuring it out, even to this day when I hear about, clouds not in the sky and it's just reflections in the water, that's kind of clever. Not to mention, I know that a lot of classic series or railway series peers don't like it when the hit era makes up these random locations that are convenient for one shot, but I'm on the complete opposite side of the spectrum. I love seeing these one-off shots that are really cool that just appear for one scene in one episode and then never show up again. This shot of Thomas coming out the tunnel to find his friends at the other side waiting, this is really cool looking. What? Yeah, it doesn't fit, whatever, my TVS accurate map, it's perfect. Yeah, it doesn't fit that map, but dude, look at this. This is so cool. Not to mention that the 3 engines that were discouraging Thomas to stop looking for the treasure wasn't the typical big 3, Gordon, Henry, and James, but it's the big 3 that makes sense. Emily, Gordon, and James. Because of course Henry would believe in something like buried treasure if he believed in something like a wishing tree, so I don't know, that's really cool. So, easily the best episode of season 10. Easily. Come on now. Season 11 is easily my favorite season of the entire model series, and there are a lot of episodes in this season that could have easily been my favorite episode of this entire season. Gordon and the Engineer, a lot of people love this episode. Dream On is a really good episode. Emily and the Rubbish, good lord, I love that episode. Hector the Horrid, what else we got here? Smoke and Mirrors, that's a really good one. Dude, a lot of these episodes are really good. I enjoy Edward in the Mail because this, again, is narration done by Michael Brandon that doesn't give Edward that nasty, nasally voice. Thomas in Trouble is great for its visuals and sound effects. Dirty Work is a really good episode. This season is packed to the brim with absolute bangers. Episodes in which that I know a lot of people don't like either. But the most underrated episode and the most underrated ending to a Thomas episode and the best episode of this entire season has to be Thomas and the Lighthouse. Thomas and the Lighthouse is easily one of those 3-strike formula type stories, but I guess 5-strike formulas. Thomas is given a job at the beginning of the episode, and he has to finish that job to then do something he wants to do by the end of it. And this is one of those episodes where Thomas has to deliver something slowly, but has to speed up in order to, get the job done as fast as possible. But if he speeds up, the job will end up failing. You get the point. Thomas really wants to see the fireworks show before they start in the evening. But the thing is, he has to deliver a light bulb before the sun goes down. And the thing is, Thomas does end up doing the job badly. He does end up breaking the light bulb. But the thing is, at the end of this episode, Thomas doesn't get what he wants. He completely misses the fireworks show, but at the end of the episode, you get this amazing shot. Thomas pulls up to the top of Gordon's Hill and looks at the twinkling night sky reflecting off of the amazing calm ocean in the distance. And, of course, the narrator then says,
"And even though there were no rockets or Catherine wheels, Thomas thought it looked as wonderful as the fireworks."
Isn't that nice? Isn't that peaceful? I feel like there's a lesson here to be taught to kids, and there's definitely a lesson that I, to this day, still hold with me throughout my entire life. Not to always be worrying about the flashy, cool, colorful lights of the fireworks and pinwheels flying around in the sky, but to enjoy the calmer, slower things, the better things that'll be always there. And for that reason, season 11 houses one of the best episodes in the entirety of the model series. And with that, that's where our story ends. Wait, what? We still got... What the f***? We still got one season. Oh my god. Okay, hold on. Season 12. Let's see. I'm thinking... yeah. James gets it right. I think this episode's pretty good. It doesn't do anything that really offends me. Stanley's in this episode. That's pretty good. I like the snow, the way the snow looks here. I like the fact that the engines, they're covered in snow, so it looks like they're really one with their environment. It's pretty nice. Hector returns. It's pretty cool. He makes it to Great Waterton. That's pretty cool. Yeah. This doesn't really offend me in any way, so this has to be the best episode of season 12. And with that, that's my list, my favorite episodes of the entire model series. If you guys have some of your favorite episodes that you, of course, will probably end up disagreeing with, let me know the entire list down in the comments. Let me know 1 through 12. Let me know every single episode down there. And if you heard an episode in a certain season that you could disagree with, then let me know that as well. But until then, I'll see you guys whenever I see you. See y'all later.